Now, a report commissioned by the Catholic Church in Germany has accused the former Pope, Pope Benedict, of misconduct over the way he dealt with priests under his management who had abused children 4 decades ago. Pope Benedict retired as Pope in 2013. He'd served for 8 years. The allegations in the report concern a period much earlier in his career when Benedict, who was then known as Joseph Ratzinger, was Archbishop of Munich. The report was conducted by a firm of lawyers. This was one of its authors.
In insgesamt 4 Fällen sind wir zu der Einschätzung gelangt, dass
in a total of 4 cases, we have come to the conclusion that the former Archbishop, Cardinal Ratzinger, is to be accused of misconduct in cases of sexual abuse. 2 of these cases involve acts of abuse committed during his tenure and sanctioned by the state under criminal law. In both cases, the perpetrators remained active in pastoral care without explicit activity restrictions.
Well, the report says 2 of these cases involved abuses committed during Benedict's tenure in Munich, and these priests remained in public roles despite previous convictions for crimes against children. Another case involved a priest who was allowed to transfer to Munich despite a conviction for abuse outside of Germany. The report's authors also questioned a statement by the former Pope that he had not attended a meeting in 1980 about that priest transfer. They said it lacked credibility as the minutes show that he was present. Here's more on the story from the BBC's Jenny Hill.
Pope Benedict, who denies all wrongdoing, has said that he knew nothing about the background of that particular man. But the report's authors unearthed minutes of a meeting at which this particular man, his case, his transfer, were all discussed. The former Pope said he'd never been at that meeting. The report's authors say they looked at those minutes and it was quite clear from the minutes that he had indeed been there.
Well, let's talk to Brenden Thompson, who's the CEO of Catholic Voices, an organisation that represents lay members of the Church. Thank you very much for joining us on the BBC. I wonder what your initial thoughts are on this report.
Initial thoughts are it's when you look back to what happened in the 70s and 80s and even to today, it's quite staggering what happens, the lack of communication, the mismanagement between dioceses, that someone was able to operate, to commit these crimes and then to move over into dioceses without the proper coordination between civil authorities. And the kind of defensiveness. What seems to be different in this reporting, and it's part of a global trend of different churches instigating these kinds of reports, is the level of detail. So what's not new is we know that this is a case that surfaced in 2010, this priest, Father H, and what Benedict, the former Pope, did or didn't know about this case. But what surfaces now, as has been mentioned in the package, is what was he at the meeting? If he was at the meeting, what was mentioned about this priest? Was it simply that it was a sick priest coming, or was there a level of detail? There's contestation about the facts, so it's for the lawyers in the coming weeks and days to kind of sift through this. But certainly it shows a difference of approach that the Church put forward, the desire to be accountable to law firms, and we see this happening across the Catholic Church, which I think is a sign of how the Church sees this differently from, say, the 70s and 80s.
Do you think it also raises questions about how the Church went about choosing Pope Benedict? Because all of this, of course, happened before he became Pope. Should the Church have done more to understand his role in Munich before elevating him to the top?
Sure. I mean, it's hard to look back retrospectively. The report was commissioned because, as the report and Pope Benedict and the Vatican accepts that there were systemic deficiencies. In the original, when the case came up in 2010, the Vicar General, so the Chief of Staff of the then Archbishop Ratzinger in Munich, took full responsibility. The sense was given that he was a kind of detached Archbishop, didn't really know what was going on, and that subsequently, when he took quite senior roles in the Vatican, and then, of course, as Pope, he, of course, did quite a lot to further or prioritise child sexual abuse cases and fighting it within the Catholic Church. But it's hard. There's clearly a kind of sense in which there was a lack of due diligence, which is why Benedict, the Vatican and others have supported the publication of reports like this. Clearly, the Church needs to learn the mistakes that have been made. So it's good that these things are coming to light, and I think it's to be encouraged. What ways can governance improve within the Church is the key question.
So that's one key question. And just briefly before I let you go, Brenden, in terms of this report and this investigation, what comes next, or is that the end of the process?
Yeah, so we can't really speak in terms of outcomes at the moment, but in terms of the process, in the coming days and weeks, we know that the Archdiocese of Munich is going to have a press press conference next week that Benedict, who has willingly cooperated with the process, submitted 82 pages worth of submissions to the report, will also said he's going to look into and respond to the report. Everyone's seen this over 2,000 page report today at the same time, and then also the Vatican are going to respond as well. So we're likely to see in the coming days and weeks much more of this story coming to light.
Brenden Thompson, thank you very much for joining us.